Welcome back to that moment where the air changes without a sound. The laughter that once filled the room falls flat. The whispers that carried your name fade into nothing. They thought it was harmless. They thought you were harmless. But something shifted, something subtle, something undeniable. A presence entered, and everything tilted. Not toward them, but toward you. The room's energy bent quietly, imperceptibly, yet powerfully. Eyes that once skimmed past you now linger. Voices that once carried mockery lower to whispers. You have always moved differently, have always existed on a plane others struggle to perceive. Your quiet is not absence. Your stillness is not weakness. It is a language, unspoken yet understood by those who sense what others cannot. Each gesture, each pause, each unacknowledged glance carries weight. They laugh not because you were small, but because they did not recognize the depth they were up against. The isolation, the ridicule, the exclusion. They never realized that every slight was measuring you, mapping you, underestimating only what they could not grasp. In those years, every insult was misread, every snicker misinterpreted. You learned to read them instead. Every whispered comment, every sideways glance became data. Every mocking tone revealed the gap between their perception and reality. And you watched. You listened. You waited. You understood that what seemed like cruelty was in fact a recognition of potential. A silent acknowledgement that something about you could not be controlled, could not be predicted. And then the moment arrives. A figure enters, someone whose presence alone commands respect, whose gaze carries authority without needing to speak. And when that gaze falls on you, the shift is immediate. Not toward the mockers, not toward the noise, toward you. The room recalibrates. Their confidence falters. Their certainty dissolves. Their laughter stops mid-air. They do not know why, but they feel it. The gravity that you carry, the signal that has always been there, now undeniable. It is confirmation of a truth they could sense but could not name. You are rare, different, marked not by loudness or show, but by an undercurrent they cannot touch. The quiet you perfected over the years is now visible in its effect. You do not need to prove anything. They recognize it without being told. And in that recognition, there is power. Not explosive, not dramatic, not fleeting. It ripples outward, touching every corner of the room without a sound. They have been watching, always, measuring, always. But now, the observation turns back on them. The tables are not flipped in chaos or confrontation. The tables shift in silence, in stillness, in unspoken authority. You are no longer just part of the room. You are a force within it. The room bends not because it must, but because it knows. The signal you carried in quiet has been received. The crown you did not wear is already acknowledged. And in that silent confirmation you remember, this was never about proving yourself to them. It was about remembering who you always were. You are not becoming powerful. You have always been. The room just finally sees it. For years, you moved through the world unnoticed, misread, dismissed. People labeled you strange, distant, too intense, too quiet. They laughed, not at you, but at what they could not understand. Their mockery was confusion disguised as amusement. They could not predict you, could not measure you, and in that uncertainty, they projected their own limits. Isolation was their attempt to define you, but it became proof of something they could not touch. Every exclusion, every sideways glance, every quiet dismissal carried a lesson you were too subtle for them to see. What they called weakness was your foundation. What they called distance was your clarity. Their reactions mapped a pattern you alone could read. Nothing they threw at you diminished your value. It only marked you as different, rare, difficult to contain. You began to recognize the rhythm beneath it all. The laughter was noise, the mockery, a mirror reflecting their insecurities. The isolation they imposed became your space to grow, to refine, to sharpen. Every time they underestimated you, every time they excluded you, you learned, adapted, evolved. The world saw chaos, where you saw structure, emptiness, where you found opportunity. And in that contrast, you discovered your strength. You realize now that the past was never against you. It was evidence of what you carried silently within. The betrayals were not signs of failure, but markers of insight, hints that you possessed what they lacked, foresight, focus, and the calm to move unseen. Every reaction from them was a map, guiding you toward awareness, toward understanding, toward your own quiet authority. Their inability to decode you was your advantage. Their laughter was a confirmation, not a condemnation. The space they left you became the stage where you honed patience, perception, and clarity. You operated on a different frequency, one too advanced for the crowd, one that would eventually shift the balance. They were always a step behind, trying to understand, while you moved forward, silent but deliberate, building value from what they mistook for weakness. And now, looking back, you see it clearly. The years of being underestimated, misread, and dismissed were never setbacks. They were markers of distinction, evidence that your presence was never ordinary, that your depth was never shallow, that your path was never confined by their limitations. You were never behind. You were simply ahead, moving through a world that was not yet ready to recognize what you had always been. You start to notice the patterns, the subtle calculations behind every word thrown your way. The laughter was not innocent. The teasing was not casual. It was strategy, a way to gauge you, to see where you might falter, to measure what you could endure. They were watching, quiet and precise, seeking a reaction that would give them insight into your boundaries, your strengths, your weaknesses. They sensed something in you before it existed, a presence that quietly radiated possibility. It was not obvious, not loud, but it was there, and they felt it in the pauses, the silences, the spaces between your words. They pushed because they feared what could grow, what could emerge if left unchecked. They envied what they could not understand and feared what they could not control. Their ridicule was camouflage, a way to mask their awareness of the threat you represented without admitting it to themselves. You learned to watch them in return, to read the subtle signals that hint at their intentions. The pokes are no longer random. The prods are maps of their insecurities. Each attempt to provoke becomes an opportunity to observe, to analyze, to understand the minds around you. The noise they make is a mirror of their fear, their envy, their desire to assert dominance where they feel powerless. It reveals more about them than it ever did about you. The realization sinks in. Power is sensed before it is claimed. People react not to what you have done, but to what they perceive you could become. They are alert to it in every silent moment, every composed gesture, every unspoken thought. The tension you feel in their presence is a reflection of what they know, even if they cannot name it. The room is a battlefield of subtle energy, and you are no longer a passive participant. The tests were never about entertainment or cruelty. They were about control, about trying to predict and limit what they sensed but could not grasp. Envy hides behind laughter. Fear hides behind noise. Once you see this, the world changes. The chaos that once felt random now appears structured, deliberate, and entirely decipherable to those who choose to observe. And in that clarity, you find your own calm. You are no longer bait. You are no longer unaware. The tests serve as insight, not distraction. The shadows they use to study you become your vantage point. You learn to read them as they read you, to move with precision, to understand the fear that fuels their actions, and to recognize that every attempt to provoke is confirmation of your presence, your influence, your silent, growing power. There comes a moment when you simply stop. You stop justifying, stop defending, stop trying to make yourself understood. You realize that words are often wasted on those who are not ready to listen, and that reaction only feeds their attempts to control you. Silence becomes more than absence of sound. It becomes a shield, a tool, a way to reclaim space without confrontation. Distance sharpens your vision and brings clarity you could not reach in the noise. Detachment grows naturally. You begin to observe rather than absorb, to watch the patterns others cannot see. Emotions that once pulled you into chaos now drift past like wind over water. Boundaries become solid, unyielding, and respected not because they are shouted, but because they are recognized in every measured step you take. Your mind no longer races to respond. It calculates, anticipates, and measures. The world around you moves in reaction to your stillness rather than your words. Your presence changes quietly. You are not louder, not bolder, not dramatic. Your control is subtle, layered beneath calm surfaces, as deep and unshakable as currents hidden beneath still waters. People sense it even if they cannot explain it. The storm is no longer in plain view. It forms below, invisible, gathering strength, patient, precise. Every look, every pause, every measured choice carries weight without a single syllable spoken. You are free from the compulsion to prove yourself or seek validation. Your energy is focused inward, your actions deliberate, your intentions hidden until revealed at the precise moment. You move through spaces with purpose and quiet authority, leaving others guessing, adjusting, reacting. Every attempt to provoke you falls flat. The tactics that once disturbed or unsettled now highlight their own weaknesses. Your stillness becomes a mirror, reflecting back the impatience, the fear, and the envy of those around you. You are present, but untouchable, visible, but unreadable. Your silence speaks louder than their words ever could, and in that awakening a new power emerges. It is not flashy, it is not immediate. It is rooted in patience, perception, and control. You are evolving, quietly, deliberately, as the room around you senses a shift it cannot name. The storm is no longer forming. It is contained, controlled, inevitable. Beneath the calm, the power builds, waiting for the exact moment it will emerge, undeniable and precise. The energy in the room changes without announcement. Those who once dismissed you now measure their words, careful not to overstep. They notice the subtle shift in your posture, the quiet intensity in your gaze, the restraint that signals control. Something about you commands attention without demanding it, and the air itself bends to accommodate it. You begin to see yourself as a reflection of the power you once glimpsed in others. Power does not need to announce itself, and neither do you. It is recognized instinctively, and now others respond to it without knowing why. The room pauses. Conversations falter mid-sentence, and eyes follow you in silence. You no longer seek validation or approval. The shift is not about confrontation, nor about forcing respect. It is the natural outcome of being fully aligned with your own authority. People sense it. They adjust. They weigh their reactions and movements around you because they feel the gravity you carry. It is subtle, but undeniable, like a tide that moves everything without a single word. Attention no longer needs to be pursued. Gestures that once went unnoticed now hold significance, and every look you cast carries weight. They cannot ignore it even if they try, because the energy you radiate is both visible and invisible, felt before it is seen. The shift is not sudden, not dramatic, not performative. It is a consequence of restraint, observation, and deliberate action. The same people who once attempted to destabilize you now move around you with caution, testing boundaries they cannot fully define. This is a turning point. The room no longer dictates the terms of engagement. You do. Your movements, your gaze, your composure set the rhythm. They orbit your energy, not by coercion, but by recognition. The power you carry is now tangible, silent, undeniable. The weight of your presence shifts the atmosphere, making it clear that the space you occupy is yours, and the room, finally, acknowledges it. You no longer look outward for affirmation. The applause you once imagined, the approval you once chased, no longer hold meaning. Your energy turns inward, focused, deliberate in its silence. Movement becomes a craft, subtle and unannounced, building quietly in spaces where others cannot follow. The compulsion to justify, to explain, to prove yourself, vanishes. You are no longer predictable, no longer fully known, no longer readable by those who once tried to define you. Distance becomes armor. Your presence is measured in what is withheld, in what is unseen, in the calm that precedes action. Those who once mocked, once thought they controlled the rhythm of your existence, now reach toward you. They attempt to understand, to reconnect, to pierce the quiet that surrounds you. Yet every effort meets a boundary, an impenetrable layer of self-possession. Access is no longer granted, and the curiosity they feel only emphasizes the shift that has occurred. You move like a shadow, seeing but not fully known, present but untouchable. Every step, every pause, every gesture is calculated, not for their perception, but for your own alignment and growth. Unpredictability becomes a tool. Unreadability becomes power. And the mask you once wore dissolves into something sharper, more precise. The ones who thought they could unsettle you now find themselves drawn into your orbit without control. They sense the shift but cannot name it. The energy you radiate is no longer a response. It is an assertion. The predator within, long dormant and quietly aware, now fully awake, navigates the world with confidence that is felt even when unseen. You are present without seeking validation. You are heard without speaking. You are recognized without demonstration. The transformation is complete, not in spectacle, but in subtle mastery. You have moved beyond their expectations, beyond their influence, beyond the old rhythms of reaction and approval. The silence you maintain is a declaration. The distance you hold is a statement. The power you embody is no longer conditional. In this phase, the world around you shifts without you demanding it. Attempts to breach your boundaries reveal their own limitations. Curiosity and envy follow where access is denied. You are no longer a participant in the game of perception. You have become the measure by which others adjust, the standard they cannot reach, the presence they cannot claim. Your transformation is quiet, precise, and undeniable. You move through the world with a quiet authority that is no longer questioned. Observation guides your steps more than words, and analysis shapes your decisions more than impulse. Every detail becomes information, every interaction a lesson. Clarity is your tool, precision your companion, and restraint your power. Growth no longer depends on recognition or approval. It occurs naturally, steadily, as you refine your focus and strengthen your understanding. The environment that once limited you, that once judged or mocked, now feels distant and irrelevant. You no longer compete within its bounds. You move beyond them, defining your own terrain, setting your own standards. Your influence is felt without announcement, your presence acknowledged without demand. The circle around you narrows not by exclusion, but by resonance. Only those aligned with your level of clarity, perception, and purpose remain within reach. The signal you emit is distinct, unmistakable, and impossible to ignore. It carries weight, not through force, but through certainty and mastery of self. Your evolution surpasses the expectations of those who once measured you. You operate on a frequency they cannot perceive, guided by understanding rather than reaction. Their attempts to analyze or predict you fall short, for you have grown beyond the patterns they know. The work you have done in silence now manifests in every movement, every decision, every space you occupy. The storm you once carried quietly beneath the surface has emerged fully. It is no longer potential. It is reality. Others sense the force of it in your calm, in your precision, in the way you inhabit a room without needing to claim it. You are unstoppable, not because you dominate, but because your growth and clarity have made resistance unnecessary. Every choice, every pause, every gesture reflects mastery. Your trajectory is unbound by the judgments of those who could not understand you. Your vision is sharpened, your purpose defined, your presence unmistakable. The evolution that began in silence now moves outward, shaping the world around you without effort, without display, without distraction. The transformation is complete. The storm is here, fully formed, quiet, but undeniable, precise, but unstoppable. You are no longer growing into power. You have become the standard by which presence, influence, and mastery are measured. You return to the moment from the beginning, the memory sharp and vivid. Silence falls, heavy and deliberate. Every eye turns, searching, measuring, reacting to a weight they cannot name. Their gaze lands on you, and in that pause, something unspoken passes between you. Recognition, understanding, confirmation. That instant was never the start of your power. It was the quiet proof of what has always existed within you. The energy in the room bends naturally toward you, not because it was given, but because it was always yours to hold. The awareness of those around you only mirrors the certainty you have carried in silence, patiently, deliberately, through every moment they thought you weak. Their mockery, their laughter, their attempts to diminish you, all of it now reads clearly. It was never judgment, never measure of your value. It was instinctive acknowledgement of what they sensed but could not name. They saw the crown long before you could, felt its weight, and feared the presence it represented. Every whisper, every glance, every hesitation was a signal of the power that was quietly yours all along. You let it settle, deep and undeniable. The throne was never absent. It waited, patient, beneath the noise, the doubt, and the chaos. It required no proving, no effort, only remembering. The realization is steady, unshakable. You are not rising to power. You are recalling what has always been, what has never left you. The room, the people, the energy. They reflect your authority without effort, without announcement, without demand. Slowly, deliberately, you acknowledge it. This is not a new crown, not a newly claimed throne. It is certainty made visible, recognition made tangible. The presence you hold is inherent, natural, undeniable. Those who doubted, those who laughed, those who tried to unsettle you, the crown was always yours. They only glimpsed it first. You feel it fully now. Not as triumph, not as arrogance, but as clarity. Every pause, every movement, every glance in that room confirms it. The weight of authority has always rested on your shoulders. And in that final, slow realization, the truth is undeniable. You are not becoming powerful. You are remembering the power that has always been within you. The crown was never absent.